How's it going, guys? So as you saw in my last video, I tackled the front brakes on this car, did a bit of an upgrade, put some C5 Corvette brakes in there, and to complement that, I'm going to do the rear brakes today. And I'm going to show you just how easy an all-in-one kit, an eBay kit, how easy that can go in and how good it looks for very little money. I'll show you what I got. So if you have an early GM vehicle with a 10 or 12 bolt rear end like mine, you know, they just come with crappy drum brakes. So I'm ditching those. You know, I can't be running nice stuff like this up front and have crap like that in the rear. So if your car, which most GM cars and, you know, some C10 trucks and stuff like that, came with the typical 10 or 12 bolt rear ends. I've got a 10 in this one, and found this kit on eBay. Pirate Jack was the eBay supplier. He's got this kit that provides you with some slotted and cross-drilled 11-inch rotors. It came with everything. Braided brake lines, e-brake lines. Comes with a single piston thread caliper. You know, it's the same kind of caliper. They actually say right in the description that it's from a 79 Cadillac Eldorado. So if you ever had to replace it, you can just basically go down to any part supplier and pick it up. So, you know, it's got your mounting brackets, which I painted. They don't come like this. They're just bare steel when you get them. I painted them. This actually came with instructions. My front kit did not. And I mean, the average guy can pretty much figure this kit out anyway, but I did browse through it. I'm not that arrogant where I could just say I can do it all without reading instructions. I did read the instructions, and which is good because it actually tells you to save one of the bolts that holds this backing plate on from your drum brakes. Because in the kit, they only send you 6 bolts. So, you know, you have to save one bolt from each side to install the, you know, this is a plate that's going to mount on the end of the axle flange. So you just have to save one of your old bolts. But yeah, we're going to get to it, and we'll see just how easy this actually goes in. So the first thing you got to do is you're going to have to pull the rear diff cover, and you got to yank your C-clips out because you need to remove your axle shafts, which I already took it apart and pulled the C-clips. You can do it all in 5 minutes. You got to pull your axle shafts out just so you can get to the bolts behind it, and so that you can put your square plate on. And there's oil everywhere. Can't get all the oil out. So I already tried to get the bolts out. I knew they were going to be a challenge. These bolts have never been out. I'm betting my life on that. And they're pretty toast. So I'm supposed to save one. I'm not going to be saving any of these guys. So I'm going to have to put a new bolt in. But I mean, I broke one trying to get it out. I'd use the impact. Broke one off. But yeah, so you got to rip those guys apart. Don't forget to disconnect your brake lines. So you can see the bolt that I broke off in there. So I'm gonna have to give her a whack, knock it out. Now your brackets don't specify left side or right side, but the holes that are drilled into it, they're all spaced apart differently, so it'll only fit on one way. So the side that actually is milled out here, it's got a groove in it. that's going to go onto the back side of the flange. And if you take your other one and put it on there, the holes don't line up. So you can pretty much figure out which one goes on. You know, we're mounting the caliper on the back side. The calipers actually do specify which side they go on. I'll show you that in a minute. So once we got the bracket all tightened down, just keep in mind you may have to spin all the nuts back off and shim this once we get the axle and the rotor on. But I cranked them down anyway. Yeah, might get lucky. Okay, got the bracket bolted on. Got my axle ready to go. I opted for new axles. You don't have to buy new axles. You can use your stock ones if you want. I wanted to step it up a little bit, so I'm putting axles that are a little bit stronger. But they're cheap. They're 10 factory axles, but they had good reviews. And I mean, this car is running axles that are 50 years old. I don't know what my weakest link in the drivetrain is, but I don't want my axle to be one of them, because if it breaks, out comes the wheel. So I'm going for a little beefier of an axle, and but like you could use your factory one, it's fine. And again, like the fronts, check your stud length. I put the rotor on and then I fit it to the wheel, and yeah, the factory ones are way too small. Even the ones that came with this new axle were too short, so I drilled it out, went one size bigger, put some ARP studs in there, and actually had to trim them down a bit. They were a little too long, but she works now. Like you can see how many washes I have stacked in here. Like my rim's a pretty thick rim. So if you have factory wheels, you might be able to get away with like just slightly larger, slightly longer studs. I just went bigger all around. But yeah, we'll just get these guys slid in, and we got to put the once we get both axles slid in. You see I got this side in already. Right, slide them in, and we have to put our C-clips back in. Because I'll just stay over here. I'll show you. This axle can slide in and out, and when you push it all the way in, when you push it all the way in, it's going in further than you need it to. So we need to put the C-clips in to space the rotor properly away from this bracket, and then we can see where our caliper is going to sit, because we may have to shim this bracket, but we got to get the rotor sitting in the correct spot first. So we got to put our C-clips back in the diff, then we'll know where it sits. Okay guys, I got the C-clips back in, so the axle's in the position it's going to ride in from here on out. And I dropped the caliper in without the pads on, just so we can get a better look at how it's spaced. And they say basically just to center it. And it's riding, that's about as centered as you can get, because you can't bring it outwards anymore. And that's without the spacers in here. So you'll see there's no, yeah, my light kind of sucks, but there's no spacer between the bracket and the flange of the axle. So that's as far out as it can go. So we won't be putting any spacers in, and that's plenty fine anyway, because when you stick the pad in there, that caliper actually has to pull in further anyway just to meet the surface of the rotor. So, I mean, this vehicle, I got away without having to use spacers, and when I say spacers, it's these guys here. Comes with the kit. There's 3 different thicknesses, but every vehicle's a little different. Maybe the 12 bolts are a little different. Your axle length, your axle shafts could be a different length, but you have a little bit of, you know, you got these guys that kind of make up that little difference. But yeah, I mean, I already put the other side together, just so I kind of know what I'm talking about when I'm filming this, right? But that's what it looks like in the end with the pads in. And it's been, I I mean, if you follow the instructions, it's pretty straightforward. Like, this is my first time doing a swap like this, and this kit was extremely easy. I made it a little bit more complicated by putting an axle in that I had to screw around with studs. Like, I even had to drill the holes out in the rotor a little bit bigger to fit the studs. You don't have to do that. Factory axle will work fine, but I'm going to be laying the boots to this car, so I wanted to beef it up a little bit. But overall, very cheap brake upgrade. Looks way better than what was on there. I mean, we got rid of the crappy drums. Now we got some nice rear brakes that match the front. And if you're wondering, that kit, this kit was about 310 bucks American. And I mean, for the value, you can't beat it. And for replacement, the pads and caliper, like I said, they're off of I think it's a 79 Cadillac Eldorado. I can't remember what the rotor's off of, but it's another 80s GM vehicle. So it's, when it comes time, if I ever have to replace it, it should be pretty easy to track down the new one for it. So really, the only thing I have left to do to complete this brake kit is I gotta find a place on the axle to weld these little brackets. That's to hold our new flex lines that come with the kit. And so I gotta ditch this old guy. Get my light in here. You know, the factory brake line that I put in the car. I'm gonna be peeling that out of there. I'll find the spot on the frame to weld this guy. Like, it's just gonna be back in there somewhere. I'm probably gonna go rip right back here on the axle somewhere with it. Run that braided line over there, and then I'm running new stainless lines basically to the divider on the axle. And then throw the e-brake cable in, which should replace the factory one that I pulled out earlier. That was on the backing plate of the drum setup. And that's her. Okay guys, that's it for this video. It came out, I couldn't be happy with the way it came out. It's awesome. For what I spent, you know, I spent less than half of what the any Willwood setup was going for. And again, the seller's name was Pirate Jack, and this is the kit that I got. And I had this whole job done in under 2 hours. You could do it faster too, but you know, when trying the video and stuff, it takes a little longer. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll let you know how she performs when we get this thing out in the spring. That's all for tonight. Have a good one.